Hello, in this video, I'm going to show you how to convert an SPSS.SAV file into a CSV or comma separated values file in order to use it in Mplus. So often a situation I face is that a colleague wants me to run some analysis in Mplus. They send me an SPSS data file, which is great. If I'm on my personal laptop, which I am using right now, I don't have access to SPSS. I have it on a work computer because I have SPSS license through my job. But I may want to convert that data set for Mplus without ever having to use SPSS. There's a number of ways I can do this. I'm going to show you how to do it using RStudio. So I'm opening RStudio. So RStudio, the version I have is the free open source version. It's a different interface if you're accustomed to seeing R. The main advantage for what I'm about to do is this little button right here, the import data set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click import data set and I'm going to choose from SPSS. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse. This is going to open up files on my computer. It's going to go to documents first, but I'm going to click desktop because that's where I'm running things from. And I've got a data set called Mung Data File SAV. I'm going to double click that. And what I'm going to see below is the code that RStudio is using. So it's the library Haven means it's opening up a package I had previously installed called Haven. And then it's giving a name to a data file, and then it's reading a .sav file that it found in that I directed it to my computer, and then it's doing view. View means it's going to show me the data file in RStudio. I click import, and here we go. I've got the data file in RStudio. A couple things to notice: the variable names are at the top of each column. That's something we're going to have to remove before we can do an analysis in Mplus. Mplus doesn't want variable names at the top. I'll show you how I do that in this context. I have a previous video that shows you how to do this straight from, SPSS, and you can watch that video as well. One of the first things I would probably want to do is double check whether or not the means I'm getting in this data set match up to those that I see in the SPSS file. I'm in a tough spot here if I don't have SPSS, accessible, but I could ask my collaborator to send me descriptive statistics, things like that. I do know in this sample that the mean age is 13 and the minimum is 11 and the maximum is 17. And there's a variable called family ethnic socialization where the mean is a 3.922. The co-author did tell me that. And so one thing I might do is just quickly look at the means in the data set. So I'm going to type sapply, and I'm going to start typing the name of the data file, and RStudio is just going to give me some suggestions. Then I'm going to tell it I want the mean, and I need to say NA removed equals true. So if you haven't used R before, it's case sensitive, so true has to be in all caps. If I run that, it's going to show me the means of all the variables in this data set. So the mean age of 13 is what I would expect, so that looks good. And then the FES mod is 3.922, and then it goes out many more decimal points, but I know that that's the correct mean as well. Ideally, I would be able to compare and contrast this against SPSS. Now, you'll notice that there's NAs here in the data set. R and RStudio, they use NA for missing data. So one of the things I'm going to do is I want to change those to -99s because I find that works better for me when I use Mplus. I'm going to create a new data set. I'm going to call it Mung Data. And I'm going to use the less than sign with the dash so it looks like a little reversed arrow. And what I'm going to do here is I'm creating a new version of the data set called Mung Data. I'm going to put in brackets is NA. So that's basically if a variable is NA in the data set Mung data file. And then I'm going to close those brackets. I'm going to say make it equal to -99. Oops. Oh, sorry. Let me do this using the same first. Actually, sorry, I missed a step. So let me do Mung Data. Mung data file. So that first creates the new data set. And then I want to do this. Oh, one more thing I'm forgetting to do. I want to see, so I'm going to do view, capitalize V among data. So that's going to appear up here so I can see the data, because I see the NAs. When I do this next command, I'm going to watch those change to -99s. And I'm only doing this because I wanted to create a different name for the data set. I'm doing something wrong here. Oh, I don't need, I'm sorry. That's the mistake I was making. I didn't need that arrow. So the -99 now you see in the actual data file. Next thing I'll do is I will save, or I'll write out a CSV file for use in Mplus. So I'll type write, and then RStudio gives you some suggestions. I want write.csv. And then I'm going to give the name of the data set that I want written out. And then I need to tell R where I want that file going. And so I want it on my C drive. Under users, my username is AJSup. Just on the desktop, and I want it named among data.csv. I do that, go to my desktop, and I should see once yep, right there, among data, I open that up. What I'll see is I'll see the variable names in the top row. This, I have to get rid of that for the purposes of Mplus, because Mplus will give me an error because you don't put variable names in your raw data. I also forget that R does this. It adds a column that's got row numbers in it. I could have suppressed that when I did the write CSV. Just as easy to just delete that. So what I usually do is I highlight the row with the variable names and I click copy. Then in Excel, I add a new sheet. And then what I'll do is I'll right click and I'll transpose. And so what I get is I get the variable names vertically. What I can do is then when I go to Mplus, I can copy and paste these in essentially as the variable names. Then what I tend to do is I will open up Mplus. This is a type equals basic file. I'm going to start this process over though. And this is what I did in the first video I did, but I'm going to do language generator in Mplus with an SEM. I'm going to give it a type is basic from RStudio. And I'm using individual data I'm reading in. I'm going to tell Mplus where to find the data. By default, it's looking for .dat files, so I have to change that to all files. Put in mung data, click next. Data format free, missing data yes, numeric missing value flag, next. I'm going to paste the variable names in from that Excel file I was using. Otherwise, I'd be typing in, dozens and dozens of variable names, which I don't want to do. Same thing, there's a use variable list. Now, this is the missing data flag. It's the same in my case for all the variables. So I'll do -99, that's the flag. Next, right now I don't need to tell Mplus if I have grouping variables, weighting variables, or categorical variables. I'm going to ask for type equals basic. The rest of these are defaults, maximum likelihood, iterations, and convergence criteria. I'm going to ask for sample statistics because I want to see the means, minimums, maximums, things like that. I don't need to save out any data. I'll click finish. So now Mplus is being directed to that CSV file, missing a -99. I just want type is basic. And I can delete these default commands. What I do need to do is tell Mplus what the variable names are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Control V, and it just pasted in the variable names that I had in that Excel file that I read out from RStudio. Now, this to me is a bit of a hassle because it's going to be hard to see. You could take advantage of some convenience features in Mplus. So for example, I could put a dash there and put FES12, and Mplus would know that basically those columns should be FES 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, out to 12. I'm going to click Control Z twice to undo, 3 times undo that. The other thing is you could click delete to pull these variables up. It's not ideal, but you could just leave it like that too. So next thing I want to do is I want to look at some variables. So I'm going to use variables are, and I'm going to do age and FES mod, because I know those should be, I know what those means should be when I saw them in RStudio. So the mean should be 13 for age, and it should be 3.922 for FES mod. So I basically am going to ask for those two variables. I'm going to click run. Mplus is going to make me save a new input file. I could just call it, I could just save it as it is, or just call it type basic. Oh, I got an error. How'd I get? Oh, yeah. See, I'm getting an error because I forgot a semicolon, but let me show you what would happen if I didn't take the variable names off the data set. So first of all, I need to put a semicolon there to end the use variables command line, but watch what'll happen. It's going to give me an error, and it's going to say invalid symbol in data file ID, right? And that's because in the data set itself, it can't have this. So I'm going to click delete now, and then I will close this out. It'll ask me if I want to save it. Yes, I want to save it. Where do I want to save it? On the desktop. Do I want to replace it? Yes. Go back to Mplus, X out the output file, click run again. It ran, voila. And I'm going to see the means look like what I was expecting. I also asked the collaborator, what are the minimum, maximum, 11 and 17, 2.255. So I'm confident that I've read the data incorrectly from the SPSS file. I'm now good to go. I can run confirmatory factor analysis, any analysis I want to do on these data, and I haven't had to use SPSS at all for this. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, or send me an email at ajsupple@appliedanalyses.com. And thank you for watching.